What up, everybody? It's Double G here with the Fight Game Podcast with John LaRocca. We are a day early because of the Tuesday Night War being revisited yesterday. So we're getting this out of the way. We don't have to wait until our normal recording time of Thursday evening. John LaRocca, how are you doing on a Wednesday night here live on YouTube?
Doing all right. A bit tired, but ready to talk some Tuesday Night War, which
Wasn't
felt
much of
like
a war.
wasn't much. It was a one-sided beatdown, I believe it was.
And I'm going to get this out of the way really early on because the numbers are what they are. I'm seeing a lot of frustration, rightfully so, with hardcore AEW fans. They're a little disappointed in that number. I want to remind y'all that 3 years ago, you came on to NXT's own night and beat NXT on their own night. So, these kind of things change, and both companies or both shows are in a little bit of a different place than they were. AEW, I think we can say, and if you ask Tony Khan and give him maybe a little bit of truth serum, he would probably say that they did not promote the change of day very well. He was out there on Twitter on Tuesday morning, basically saying, please tell a friend that it's on Tuesday instead of Wednesday. And I'm like, you had 5 hours of television to do that, man. Like that was a lost opportunity, and it didn't work. Like a lot of people did not switch over. There was heavy competition. But we'll go through. The origin of this show on this website was we studied the war of NXT and AEW very closely. And so this is a little bit of a throwback for us. We'll do our normal show, but we will do the AEW versus NXT. I will say, when Andrew and I did this on We're Live, Pal, we kind of said, okay, what show is more interesting to you on paper? And I think we both said, well, AEW is leading into a pay-per-view, so more things are probably going to happen. And if both were on at the same time, which would I choose to watch first? I'd probably watch the AEW show. And we'll go through all the main things, and then we'll come out after and we'll say what show that we liked better. And so we'll do that. But one of the things that I realized as I was having this conversation with Andrew is I don't take NXT that seriously. So the level of expectation is much higher with AEW Dynamite than it is with NXT. And NXT is, quite frankly, a much better show these days than it has been. So maybe my expectation should be a little higher with NXT. But we'll go through that. We'll go through our entire top five. We'll talk a little bit about Bad Blood, even though it feels like it was like months ago that show happened, with so many things that are happening in wrestling. We'll do our thumbs up, thumbs down, and we might as well kick it off with our thumbs up, thumbs down here.
Thumbs up, thumbs down.
All right. What is your thumbs up for the week?
My thumbs up was that main event on Raw. I really enjoyed Gunther versus Sami Zayn. I thought it was just a perfect match, really. I mean, I think I gave it about 4.5 stars, and it's one of those matches. I kind of wish they had longer time. I wish they got like 30 minutes. I think they could have took out the women's 6-man tag or 6-woman tag and put the men's the title match. Give more time, I think, but it was still really good. I really liked it. I liked the. I don't know. Raw I thought was pretty good. I think the 2 hours definitely helped out there. But Gunther's just, he's the man. He's just the man. He's the best in the world right now. And putting the match together and building up, to the finish, and building up crowd interest. And that crowd was hot by the end of it. So great, good stuff.
I really liked the finish. Thought the finish was really smart.
Yeah. They're getting over Gunther, going into that. We're talking about that later, but the Crown Jewel show, and it's I like what they do. They make him a dominant champion. He's a heel and he's an asshole, and but at the same time, he's really good, and that just adds more to his heat.
I had this issue with Raw NXT and AEW in which there were long matches on those shows, and so much of those matches happened either in picture or through a commercial break. And I think the Raw main event went through 2 different picture-in-pictures.
Yeah.
And so when I watch those matches, I just I'm like, oh, here we go. Like it's like a natural bathroom break when I don't like this is the main event. I've been waiting to watch this thing. I mean, that's just television, televised
Can't get
wrestling.
around that. Yeah.
That's what we have to do. But I keep hitting on this point is that I would just rather watch these matches on pay-per-view for that reason, because I want to, I'm in there and then just like, oh, commercial. Gosh, all right. I mean, we kind of predict them now. We can sort of tell when they're coming, but it's as good of a televised world title match that you're going to get through 2 picture-in-pictures. Sammy's awesome. I would love to know what they know long term about him, because he is like the perfect underdog babyface champion. He's probably not your long-term champion, but we talked about this with Eddie Kingston a couple years ago. It'd be nice to see Eddie Kingston get that upset babyface win over the dominant champion, and he could lose it back in a month or 2. But to see that moment, that's a lot of times the moment that we miss in wrestling today, because a lot of it is predictable, and rightfully so. You want business. But I would love to see Sammy get like a win that we don't see coming in a world title match. It would be awesome. You would feel like all the hours you've invested in the Sami Zayn character kind of came to fruition in a nice way.
Yeah, I think for him, it's just timing. Bigger programs on top, but different talent at this point. But yeah, that'd be cool if he. I'm sure him win the world title would be a nice little. I want him to keep it, like I said, long term. But nice little few month reign, little transitional reign would be nice. But they kind of did that in a way. They get that big win at WrestleMania over Gunther after Gunther had that really long reign as the Intercontinental Champion. So that was pretty big. I know it's the world title, but I mean Gunther got that belt just as damn near equal to a world title at that point. So that's Sammy had a big moment there.
I mean, there is a pattern with him, right? He had the Roman Reigns match, and you had lots of people hoping for what we just said over Roman at that point. I did not think that would have been the best for business based on what they were getting to at WrestleMania, but I did, I could see why people thought that. I would pull the trigger on it. It could be Gunther. They could repeat that thing with Gunther, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, Sammy's the one guy in all of wrestling that gives Gunther trouble. So
they had that moment, but they, after this match, I don't know if they could revisit that. It's a different story for sure for Sammy beating someone, but who that I don't think it's going to be Gunther.
All right, I think I have to give my kudos to a guy who I would say up until the last few months I was not the biggest fan of, and that is Tony D. The gimmick was so heavy-handed when they were getting it together in the earlier days of his character. And we knew, based off of his background, that he was actually going to be a really good wrestler because he had all of the credentials of being a really good wrestler. And so it was very stereotypical, heavy on that in the early, and it still is. But that dude has a connection with the fans. He's really good in the ring. And they told this story, and I don't know if you caught Vic's line last night about he was getting his Eye of the Tiger as their Rocky 3. They had this very Rocky 3 heavy storyline, and he had to win the match in order for that storyline to make sense. I kind of liked Obafemi as like this dominant champion.
Yeah.
But when they did pull the trigger and when they did have him win in a match with 2 near falls that I imagine fooled most people, they were so good, and they finally had him win. I thought, if you're going to beat Obafemi, this is the way to do it. And I mean, maybe they rematch at some point and he gets the win, whatever it is. For that moment, for this night on this show, it was like the best feel good moment of all of the shows that we watched, I think.
Yeah, it was a really good match. I like the finish because it was a tight roll up, so And they do talk about Tony D'Angelo's amateur background, so you can believe that he can, roll this guy up and hold him down. But it was also a roll up, so you're not like beating Obafemi with your finisher, So there's rematch there if they want to go that route. I I really enjoyed it. It's really high impact stuff. Two big guys just throwing big slams and big blows. I the only thing I did not like was they did the spot where on the floor Obafemi is beating down Tony D'Angelo. I think he's on the apron, and there's Adriano Rizzo. There's who else is it? Luciano Crisafino and Stacks, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, ringside. He shoves the guys down, but the guys end up inadvertently knocking down Adriano Rizzo, and then of course that fires up Tony. I kind of like to see him like slowly fire back up. Like he's still
Mm-hmm.
selling. Obi's getting shots. Like really build that comeback up. I didn't like he just went from boom. I'm in a rage right there. I would have there's something to the magic of those, selling up and fighting up from underneath, like the Jerry Lawler stuff. And he could have done something similar. And that would have been really exciting. But overall, the match crowd was really into this match. This is a smaller crowd. I kind of like this. I kind of want to see for the on the road shows, intimate settings like this. I thought I had a cool look, and I think you get those hotter crowds. And I'm glad that they're out of that building for a little bit, just to get away from that crowd. It's just like, oh, it's been awful the last 6 weeks. But yeah, really good match.
Here's my question on whether these small buildings make a lot of sense for them, which is Mark Shapiro, who is the president of TKO.
Mm-hmm.
In one of the last interviews that I saw with him, he specifically said that they were cutting back on house shows because there wasn't a lot of profit in house shows. And in a show like this, where you go to that small building, you're selling 2,000 tickets. I wonder if he would see that in the same way. Like, oh, if we could get 8,000 with what we're paying the talent, it makes a lot of sense to do that. But if we can only get 2,000, now the building is not all that expensive, but think of all the high salaried people that they sent to that show. Like, the gate for that whole show was probably 2 weeks of Randy Orton's entire salary or something, right? So I loved it for the exact same reason that you did. And if you kind of do the comparison, AEW had a similar amount of people, but that was in a much bigger building, and so the sound wasn't that great, and you could kind of see how big that building was, and it just didn't look as cool. Like that building that they ran, it kind of reminded me in the very beginning. It reminded me of the old Manhattan Center because of that balcony.
Yeah, I thought that. Yeah, it looked to me. I liked it. I liked the look of it. Dynamite, on the other hand, like I said, is a big building, a small crowd, and that crowd, my God, I thought they were painted there. I thought there was just
it's going to be even worse next week when we go.
Yeah, if I go, I don't know. I'm starting to think why do I want to waste my time there? I don't know. I'll see. It might be a game time decision, but yeah. Shoot, San Jose SAP Center. Shoot, that thing's huge.
I mean, the last I saw, which is almost a week now, so it's probably changed, but they were barely over 2,000, I think, the last time. So hopefully they work with the San Jose street team and they get some radio stations to give away some tickets and stuff. So
yeah, they're gonna be, like I said,
people in there.
Go to your Home Depots or right next to the San Jose Giants tickets. Free tickets. It's probably where you're gonna find those.
And I don't even know what the right radio station is anymore to promote.
KMBR, I guess, would be the one. Bone, Baby Huey's.
Actually, you got Baby Huey. Use Baby Huey, man.
Yeah,
he's the big wrestling fan on radio today. All right, so we do have to go. What comes up must come down. We do have to do a thumbs down. I'll let you lead off with your thumbs down.
My thumbs down was on Dynamite this week. The Darby Allin angle with Brody King. I mean, last week we just saw this guy lose his World Championship title match to Jon Moxley. And
a couple weeks ago, I think. A couple weeks ago,
excuse me. Yeah, that was 2 weeks ago. And, he should still have an issue with it. Still be fired up about something, but he just comes out and he wants to has an open challenge for WrestleDream, which I think is stupid for him just to be involved. Let's just throw something together. And Brody King hasn't done anything in this company for how long? I mean, hasn't been featured, been in 6-man tags on the shows. He's not the best big man in the world either. And then the promo with Darby and Brody King and I think he's kind of this ghost, that same thing all over and over again. I live in my car. I love this place. It gave me everything. Like, it's time to get Darby to that next level in AEW.
Yeah.
They really want to make him the face of AEW. We got to cut that stuff out and just give something some meat to chew on here.
I know
a throwaway match.
I know this is a very simplistic way to think about this, but John Cena 2004, like, I would really go study some of those tapes to see what he did to get over as a babyface, because I'm almost sure that he didn't tell the other person who he was wrestling that he helped him get in the company.
Yeah.
Right? Like, this is stuff that I think it endears the hardcores because they know the Darby story. They feel closer to him when he tells it. But I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for the non-hardcores or the people who are checking in from time to time. I know people will say, oh, you can't book for the for the casuals. The casuals are such a, who knows who they are. But I'm just saying, just overall, your consistent message. I want Darby to be a superhero. I don't want him to be a regular guy who is just crazy. Like, there is something to him and his underdog mentality. Don't get me wrong. The skateboard thing is cool. I think that stuff works with young fans, but I don't want him to be a normal indie worker who gets paid now and then says, I made it. No, dude, you're not the world champion. Like, when you reach that mountaintop, in this kayfabe world, that is when you've made it, when you're the champion, where you're the top guy. And so I really wonder about the direction that sometimes these guys are given as far as what the promos are supposed to be about. Because I would have said immediately, I don't want to hear about any of that stuff.
Yeah.
And the same thing happened with Daniel Garcia, and we'll talk about that later. But let's give a consistent message about who you are and why you want to fight and why you want to win and why WrestleDream is important, instead of like the whiny babyface stuff. Because, Darby is better than a whiny babyface who's mad at the heel and then sucker punches the heel. Yeah. He's so booked so poorly of late, and it's not doing him any favors.
I'm guessing Tony Khan, from what I can tell, it seems like it to me, just lets them do their own thing out there. He knows the gist of it, and he's trusts these guys, but sometimes these people need to be produced. And then on top of all that, once Brody and Darby started fighting, Darby had a brick on him. So he was calling out his friend, his old running mate, on the road, but just in case he had a brick on him, just bash his head in. Like what the hell was going on with this? It's a one and done match on a pay-per-view. Darby's gonna win, which is good. He should, but he just, that's all it is. I don't think people are interested in seeing Darby beat Brody King. They're just interested in seeing Darby, what crazy things he's gonna do, and that's where Darby's at right now in his career.
Yeah. My thumbs down. WWE gave me two good ones this week. Danny Palmer, we'll say less about her social media. Yeah. But the one I think that makes more sense is the Triple H comments. Now, Andrew Zarian and we did like a 10-minute thing on that. So I'm not going to repeat that. It was we looked at it from sort of the media perspective, but also from the perspective of Andrew and I are like biracial. We're multiple things. I don't like when someone asks Triple H a specific question and he didn't answer the question, and then he went off of this tangent about everyone heard the comment and he doesn't see color. Well, I hope someone pulled him aside and says, hey, dude, here's how you need to present that, because I think he's got a really compelling statement based on where WWE is today. You look at, we just talked about him, promote Obafemi, promote other folks who were relevant on television this week, Xavier Woods and Kofi Kingston. And I know the question wasn't about Black women, but you could have said, like, look, I know you didn't ask about Black women, but look at Jade and Bianca, two of our biggest stars. And you can present that information as, we are a work in progress. We are trying to get better at lots of different things. Inclusivity is one of those things. And you can present so much of a more positive message that doesn't even feel like PR, instead of the defensive message that was like 25 years too late. That's like a 90s message that people would say that is not relevant at all anymore. So I've beat that one to death, but I just hope that he knows the importance of his role. He is the face of this company, and he needs to be prepared, and he needs to have statements that compel people and that show people that WWE is actually moving in the right direction, and not a company that's still living in the 1990s. So that's my piece on Triple H. I hope he's gotten some good advice on how to handle those situations, because he's 0 for 2 in the serious questions department. All right. So let's get to our top 5. If you are new to this show, John and I do a thumbs up, thumbs down. We do a top 5. We take the top, like our top 5, not necessarily the biggest topics in wrestling, but things that we want to talk about. And within that top 5, we even have some segments here. So let's kick off our top 5.
Drums, please.
All right. Like I said, last weekend was Bad Blood, but it already feels like that show was a long time ago. And it's going to keep feeling like that, because since Bad Blood, which was on Saturday, if anybody watched Collision, which not many people did, you also had 2 more hours of television. There was a UFC pay-per-view. There was baseball playoffs there. And then on Sunday, it was all NFL, WNBA playoffs. I forgot to mention college football all day Saturday. Then on Monday, you had Raw. On Tuesday, you had AEW and NXT. So it's almost like Bad Blood is in the rearview mirror. But we still want to give our quick grades as if you were giving a grade of the show on a report card.
All right, it's time to go to school, son. Come on, get your hands up, man. You need an interpreter? It's time to go to school.
All right. Bad Blood, A through F. What was your score? What was your grade after you were done watching that show?
Ooh, I'm gonna say I enjoyed 3 of the 5 matches. I thought they were pretty good, so I'm gonna go a solid B+.
I think B+ is absolutely right on the money, and also a thumbs up, because I don't think you can have. There's very few cards where you can say thumbs down when you have a match as good as CM Punk and Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, that I mean, that should be a very, very, if not the match of the year, I think, for 2024. I don't think anything is to that level. That was a great match. That was fantastic.
Okay, here's something I saw. Dave, obviously his Twitter gets a lot of attention. Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins comparison, Hell in a Cell, because those are the 2 best Hell in a Cell matches probably since like the early days. Which one did you like better?
This one easily, by far. Okay. I mean, that was a great story with Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins, for sure. That was it was more Cody, gutting through and everything. But a big time program, a big time feud, a hot feud, a money making feud, and it comes to a dramatic conclusion like they presented, where everything just came together. The violence came together. It was perfect, I thought. And I thought both guys did a great job. I'm glad I was kind of like, first I kind of rolled my eyes like, oh, here comes the table out from the ring. But I like, they're so creative. Like, okay, let's do different things. Let's use the leg. Let's use, they took a lot of risks, in there. At one point I thought CM Punk may have been trying to hard way Drew, and they could have came to that agreement. I'm sure they did, because there's one point I saw, he was working hard punches to Drew's forehead there.
He
And of
did
course,
bust him open in the top of
yeah,
the head on
that was
accident,
with
I think.
yeah, that was more of an accident, I think, but really good match. I mean, I got lucky and the kids are too busy to watch it, but they kind of ended up getting there right when the finish happened, and then
Mhm.
there's Punk celebrating his blood everywhere, Drew's bleeding everywhere. Then my son Hunter turns to me, and goes, is he gonna die?" And I'm like,
Oh my
no.
god.
And I was like, no, he's not. And then I got my wife breaking kayfabe, talking about Halloween blood and shit. And I'm like, that's not true. That's real blood, you know. But yeah, he was a little bit like concerned
By
over
the way,
Drew McIntyre, his action figure that he has.
you just coughed right now, and you got to be careful with coughing on podcasts these days. Did you see the clip of Brian and Dave from
Oh,
yesterday's show?
comedy genius right there.
It was
That
the
was
best. It was the
yeah.
best thing
But
ever.
hey, yeah, Brian was fantastic, and Dave just doesn't even had no clue what was going on, which is,
You know what's
Dave.
funny is I understand Dave as a co-host very well because I've
Yeah.
done, probably, gosh, I'm trying to think how many shows have I done with Dave now? At least, it has to be, I don't know, has to be like 300 or 400, 500 maybe by now. So I know the way that he does things. And so when I'm listening to it, I didn't have the visual. All of a
Mhm.
sudden I just heard silence. And I was like, "Oh, I wonder if they forgot to edit something out. Like they had to do something and then they just forgot to edit it."
Yeah.
And then when Brian came back and it sounded like he was still dying, and he made that, thanks for covering or whatever. And Dave's like, I lost because I knew
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
what had happened at that point.
but yeah, so B plus for me. That match was great. The course Hell in a Cell, I thought the main event was really good too. I love the storytelling, and that was fantastic. And yeah, good B plus. How about you?
Okay, so I thought Nia Jax and Bailey was unfortunate because
Oh well,
they,
yeah. I mean,
they
this is a follow
knew
that. Yeah,
they
yeah.
knew they were coming after that match, and so they probably did a far more risky match than they would have done if they weren't coming after that, because they missed a lot of stuff and they tried really, really hard. So I didn't want to completely
I don't really
crap
think it was
on
a
it.
bad match. A lot of people were bagging on it. I think there's my way Nia Jax in it, they're gonna be rough on it, but I thought it was pretty good for what they did, you know. I mean, you know what's funny? Like Nyla Rose could do that Hurricane spot. People go, "Oh, that was such a what a great moment! What, oh my god!" And it could look like shit, but Nia Jax does it, and because it's Nia Jax, they just bag on her, you know.
That was bad though. It was really bad. It's okay.
Oh,
Now,
it was
uh,
good, but
I,
I mean, I
I,
think they're trying something different, and they try to do something exciting out of it, you know.
I understand what I understand. People are harder on Nia, but it's because of just over the years of watching her, and she's she's slightly improved. I
Hmm.
think she's a much better character than she's a wrestler. But there were two moments in that match. You have a very favorable announce crew that is going to their job is to help make things look good.
Yeah,
There were two moments in that match where they were absolutely confused at what the women were trying to do. Just outright confused. And they called it actually the wrong way from what the move was supposed to be. So when you do that on this stage, it's not great. But I thought Bailey tried her ass off to cover up for some of that stuff.
yeah. Bailey was great, and like I said, people bagging on the match. I'm like, then you're also bagging on Bailey's performance, which was tremendous. I thought for what she's what she did out there for that match. I mean, with Nia, I mean, she has a lot more faith in Nia than a lot of people do, you know. So I
I'm
mean, she's put her body on the line.
sure I'm sure that was also part of the attempt, is that if anybody can do this, we're going to be able to do it. And they just missed on some of the bigger things. I think if that Hurricane Rana spot, if you take that out and say, let's not try that, the match is probably a lot better than it was. But that
Yeah.
was, I mean, that's a botchamania kind of spot that we would see on tapes and stuff. Priest and Balor, if that was on Raw,
This is a
you
good
know,
match. Yeah,
probably like more of a Raw main event than an
yeah.
actual pay-per-view main event,
I see.
or pay-per-view
I
match.
saw some reviews, and they're like, "Oh, it never got to that point, or it never got as like a great match." I'm like, guys, when you put a show together, there's the matches you want to be great, and there's matches that are you want to be good. You don't want to outshine your main event in the middle, right? Like they're not there to have this great match. They're there to tell a story, right? The story of their continue their program or ending in the program. I guess I don't know if it's ended or started, whatever, but it's still going. And it was a solid match. That's what it needed to be. It didn't need to be the great match.
Two points on that. One, the issue with this entire feud is that Priest is going to win. Like, I don't think anybody thought Finn Balor is going to win. So that's problem number one. Problem number two, on a 5-card show, I'm not sure that is exactly the right way to book a 5-card show. A 7, 8, 9 card or 9-match show. Yeah, there's going to be stuff in the middle that you're like, okay, like we're showcasing these folks, but I don't expect them to have a 4.5-star match. When you only have 5 matches, with the type of workers that they have, they should generally be really, really good matches. But at the same time, I thought this was pretty
really
good. I thought it was pretty good for what it was. So I didn't have an issue with the quality of the match, but I do think when you only have 5 matches on these shows, you can't really have a stinker and then any boring matches because people are like, what am I here for?
The matches aren't boring. It's just they're not trying to go out there and try to have this, balls out barn burner match when it's not their job, or each match is different. Just like now the finish was fucked up in the next match, but that match was a gimmick match, right? It wasn't supposed to be like this great classic. It was built around the gimmick. And it's too bad the referee fucked the finish up, but that's the way it goes.
So can you explain what his job was?
So this is why
I don't even know if they even announced a winner in the match. I'm still unsure who won that match.
This is what I think happened, and I'm pretty sure I'm right. Because I watched it a few times. When Dom was in the cage and tried to get out, and he started falling and hanging. That was a great stunt, scary stunt. I wouldn't want to do that. Forget that, but kudos to Dom. And then Rhea, because they had the ref cam on Dan Egler, and she says, "I'm gonna, give me 1 minute. I'm gonna beat his ass." And then, because Dom's Dom and been a jerk to everyone, the ref's like, "Yeah, whatever. I'll give you that minute, right?" So she goes out there and gets the cane. She starts wailing on him. The referee is supposed to come out, get between them to stop Rhea, right? Maybe get the cane away, but then go to Dom and try to help him out. With his back turned, then Raquel Rodriguez shows up, attacks Rhea, throws in the ring, hits a finish, puts Liv, referee comes back, 1, 2, 3. That was supposed to be it. And the reason why I know that is because if you notice, when the ref was late coming to break them up, he watched it for so long, all of a sudden he sees Raquel and he beelines it to get between them. And then he's like, oh shit, this is messed up. So he walks back to the apron and just looks to the ground to act like he doesn't see anything because he's not supposed to see the interference. And I think what happened was Triple H, that's a Triple H probably call, I'm sure it is. He said, well, fuck it. He already seen everything's going on, just do disqualification. So that's what happened. I thought the match was, fine for what it was until that finish. And what further confirmed that the referee messed up is because during the main event, when referee Jason Ayers had the camera on, and they announced that he has a ref camera, and we're checking in on his perspective from time to time. Michael Cole says, well, I hope he does a better job than Dan Egler did in the last one. And that's why I'm like, okay. So, I've confirmed that it was him. And I could just tell by the way he beelined to hurry up and get between Raquel and Rhea, and then quickly just kind of backed off again so he didn't see it, act like he didn't see it. It was a big mess. I felt bad for that. That's unfortunate, but whatever. It happens.
I thought Rhea asking for the minute to go out and beat Dom was silly. I think I don't know. Is there even a count out in a match like that?
No, it was disqualification. That's what it was.
I know, but why does she have to ask the referee if she can go outside? Is there a count out? Would he just start counting and count her out?
Well, it's these stupid matches because the gimmick they end up using no disqualification. So she really doesn't need. Maybe she just wanted
Right.
them before you break me up trying to kill this guy because I know he's not technically in the match. He's supposed to be out of the match. So maybe she, that part of it. But
I think the fans would have been just as excited to see her beat the hell out of Dom and for the ref to count and then if he gets to 9 and she walks back in and then she goes back out and then he goes out to break them up. I thought that would have been fine too. I didn't like that part. It just seems a little silly.
yeah.
If we're gonna do all of these things to make sure that the ref is not shown up, that's the way that we get there. I just thought that was silly.
It didn't go as according to plan, but I will say I like the idea of starting Raquel Rodriguez as a heel or rebooting her as a heel because that's what got her over in NXT when she was the muscle for Dakota Kai. I think I like her being the muscle for Liv Morgan, and that's how you're gonna. I think you go that route again to get her back over because when she got called the main roster, you saw what Vince did with her. They wanted to make her smiley and more makeup and all that instead of what got her over in NXT was the fact that she was, this badass powerhouse. So we'll hope they get back to that. I think they will. I think Triple H was pretty high on her in NXT. So
yeah, just hope that she can just stay healthy. I know she's had that crazy health issue that seems to act up every once and again. Main event was exactly what you wanted it to be, especially with Jimmy Uso coming out, and then you get The Rock coming out at the end. I mean, what did you sense when he put up the 3 fingers? What did you sense that he was trying to signify?
I don't know. Like, this is 3 fingers. I didn't get that either. I don't know. Like I thought he was calling off the bloodline or something like that, or telling Roman he's coming for him, or 3 months maybe. I don't know. Royal Rumble.
See, I thought it signified that he was going to beat Cody 1, 2, 3 and win the world title. What Meltzer said, and I've seen this in other places, is he thought it signified a triple threat at WrestleMania. And I've seen that in other places as well, which I don't like 3-ways, but oh well. Well, whatever they do, is what they do. But yeah, B+ for that show, and happy with it. So
Rock still has that stupid belt, and I mean it's a cool belt to have in your house, I guess, on a mantle.
Well, when he wrestles Cody, it's going to be title for title, I think.
Oh my god. Anyway, I guess it's but I did like the tag match. I thought it has some really cool storytelling layers, like early on when there's a face off between all 4 men. Roman is like slightly behind Cody in the camera shot, so you think, okay, he might hit him from behind. And of course, during the heat on Cody, there's a moment where or when heat on Roman, Cody gets pulled off, so you think maybe Roman will be mad because he thought Cody wasn't there for him. And then when Roman got pulled off, it almost looked like he didn't get pulled off, like he jumped down. But it was Jacob who pulled Roman down. I thought that was some cool teases there, and then the work was good and the finish was right. So yeah, it was a fun main event.
All right, what did you think about this? Is topic number 2. What did you think about the way that they got into Kevin Owens and Cody with basically them doing their thing and waiting for phone cameras to pick it up?
Yeah, it was extremely creative. I like that. I like creating some viral moments where people are like sharing online. Oh shit, something that you go to your phone. I mean, it's different. It's different storytelling. And I liked it. I like it. It's I'm sure they had it exactly. They knew where fans are going to be. They knew everyone has a phone. Everyone's going to be taking the camera out and capturing this, and it's everywhere, all different versions of it. And it was really cool. That was cool to go on the phone and see it. I'm like, oh shit, that's exciting. So, and then of course they're going to follow it up on Friday for SmackDown.
Friday, yeah.
It's
really creative and kind of out of the ordinary of what they do. But this is a nitpick. But if Kevin Owens was going to be your world champion, I don't think that's how he turns on Cody. That's my only nitpick of the thing. They're gonna have a great match. Kevin Owens is awesome. Cody is awesome, but you're not taking that belt off of Cody unless this is like a really, really big moment. And
No.
I didn't sense that it was that big of a moment.
No, he's just another challenger for
Yeah.
Cody and beating him. But it adds another layer to the program that they they already wrestled once and it was babyface versus babyface and they teased some stuff and now it finally boiled over and all because of Cody's association with teaming up with Roman and yeah, I thought it was really good. Look, I think now their match was that Survivor Series. I'm guessing possibly maybe television, maybe Saturday's main event.
Maybe.
Is has some more steam behind it now, and it could be different.
Okay, topic number 3. Crown Jewel is a little bit of a throwback to bragging rights. And when Survivor Series used to be Raw versus SmackDown, where we get these matches that are kind of like dream matches, title versus title, and they're always sort of disappointing. They mean nothing in the long run. And they're doing it again with the Crown Jewel title belts for both the men and women. And I don't sense that they're going to mean that much here either.
I don't think their belts would be presented in the United States. I think it's something to do on this one show. They might have like a Raw or two or SmackDown or two where they show the belt with the wrestler, but then I think they got to ship it back to Saudi Arabia so the Prince can run around with them.
Yeah.
But by the way, I never liked bragging rights. When they announced bragging rights originally, I'm like, so Survivor Series? It's like what we're doing? Yeah,
exactly.
I don't like this. The champion for both brands wrestling each other. It sounds good on paper, but honestly, one brand, one championship is going to be diminished a bit, right? And especially when it comes to Gunther versus Cody, like neither of the guys should be losing.
My guess is they believe that Cody is over enough to where he could survive a loss with some sort of shenanigans.
I think if you do it where there's shenanigans, bloodline interference, The Rock interference might be the way to go.
Could be Jacob.
Could be Jacob setting up a world title match as well. Just whatever. It can't be just, usual Gunther winning clean in the middle with the choke or powerbomb or whatever finishers he has. So I'm not a fan. And it's the Nia Jax Liv Morgan match. I don't know if that's even going to happen. I feel like they're going to do some kind of title change before then or something, but we shall see.
I don't know. Yeah, that is and they're selling this show to a completely different audience. You get Cody and Gunther. Maybe that's the match that they wanted. But yeah, I don't sense that this is going to be. I mean, but it has to be related to what they're doing because if you think about it,
yeah.
So we have Crown Jewel coming up in 3 weeks. After that is Survivor Series. After that is Saturday night's main event. After that is the very first Raw on Netflix. Those are your next 4 big shows.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Crown Jewel has to lead into, Survivor Series in some way, I would think. Yeah. So I think the creative will be interesting for sure.
I think they'll work the creative to where it benefits their, what they're doing in the United States. My favorite moment though, that whole segment in the ring is when Triple H announces the Saudi Arabia and the crowd boos. He's just like, all right, I gotta get through this segment. Hurry up, Gunther, and go over, do your thing. That was entertaining. That was a good part, though. I
like the Goldberg stuff. I thought that was fun, especially when Gunther says, "Yeah, come in the ring. I got 3 minutes." I popped for that one. That one.
I like the idea of Gunther versus Goldberg.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
But then I'm like, man, I don't know. It has to be really short, and they could probably do it if the right, but they're running out of time though with Goldberg,
Yeah,
I think
it would be the whatever the creative is. If they do it, it probably tells you that they just don't think they're going to do that Brock match
with Gunther.
Yeah.
Oh, you can, it's kind of like the pre Brock match. You could do something quick where like Goldberg looks like he's about to hit the spear. Kaiser pulls a leg on Goldberg. Then Kid Goldberg comes out, spears Kaiser. Gunther gets speared, rolls out, that kind of fun stuff. Yeah, you could do it. Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be exciting.
Yeah, it'd be the best Brock Lesnar Goldberg match was like 5 minutes or whatever, that short match that they had.
Sign the kid. So we see the next nil signing is going to be Goldberg's kid, I think.
I think the next one should be Little Papa Pump.
Oh yeah,
Scott Steiner's kid.
Jeez, saw
that dude is jacked.
I thought that was Petey Williams, but then he's an agent now. So.
Okay, let's talk about the Tuesday Night War, NXT versus AEW. Let's talk about the AEW show first because we haven't talked much AEW yet.
Mm-hmm.
And I just pulled out kind of like the 5 most important things on each show, and we can talk about them. So the beginning and the end of Dynamite was Danielson and Moxley. That is going to be the main event at WrestleDream. Moxley's promos are still in riddle. They don't really.
The Riddler.
I can't tell exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And I don't like this promo because Moxley, when he's very specific, he can be really good, but he's kind of talking in circles a little bit, so he's not as good. And then Danielson cut his promo, and this led to the main event, which was Danielson and Wheeler Yuta against Claudio and Pac. Match was solid. Nobody buys Wheeler Yuta yet, which is problematic for the spot that he's in. But I thought the finish of this match was comedy hour.
Yeah.
So Pac's got a hammer, and he's about to lay out Danielson in this match. Wheeler Yuta gets behind him, takes the hammer. Then Bryan Danielson puts Pac in the submission hold, and Pac quickly taps out. The referee was distracted, 1, because of Marina, and then 2, because of Claudio. And so Wheeler just has this hammer in his hand the whole time. Referee comes to, and he's looking at everyone, calls the tap out, looks at Wheeler. Wheeler's got the hammer just in his hand like this. I was like, dude, why is this hammer still in your hand? The referee's looking right at you. You should have dropped the hammer. Okay.
Well, it's Rick Knox, so
yeah,
they can get away with a lot of stuff.
He already moved from one side of the ring to the other side of the ring, so that was enough for him.
Yeah.
So then Moxley and Danielson kind of go all the way to the back. So this leaves a 3-on-1 with poor Wheeler, with Claudio, with Pac, and with Marina. Marina's manhandling this dude, by the way. She's she's kind of she's the heater, and like we said last week, like she, like some of these wrestlers, like I would be more intimidated in getting in a ring for real with Marina than some of these other guys.
Physically more impressive than a lot of the wrestlers on the roster in AEW, just in size and muscularity,
So they go to work on poor Wheeler, and they use the hammer. Claudio uses the hammer and hits him in the gut like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah.
So finally, Danielson and Moxley come back. Their brawl took them all the way from the back to the ring. And at this point, the hammer was like nowhere to be found. I was like, where did the hammer go? Like this hammer was supposed to be the weapon, but it's there and it shouldn't be there. And then they use it, then it disappears when Danielson comes back in so he can beat everybody up. I was just like, who agented this entire end of this show? It was almost like it was done.
Problem.
It was almost like it was done for humor, more so than for to main event a giant grudge title match at the pay-per-view.
Yeah, that didn't really sell me on the match or this whole program. But I'm just waiting to get this pay-per-view out of the way so we can see, hopefully get some answers to the whole Moxley Riddler gimmick, and we'll see if we finally reveals what the hell's going on, who's pulling the strings.
You think we get the reveal?
I hope so. I'm just ready because this doesn't make a television. Just get to the point next, and we'll just work our way from there.
What if Moxley is about to unveil it, and then he's like, "Meltzer's in San Jose. We got to wait for Meltzer at the end of the pay-per-view."
Maybe it's Meltzer, like Vince with the sheet over. Remember what was that gimmick?
The higher power.
The higher power. It's Meltzer. Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't like. I mean, the match was fun. I just have a problem with Wheeler in that role. I don't think that they've done a great job building him up.
No.
I don't think anybody believes in him. He's a little bit of like still the little kid baby face, so he may have to, maybe they're still building him up there. I've seen people who want him to turn on Danielson, and I'm like, why? Like, he's not in that space of being able to utilize it. Like, people are going to go like, oh, yay, the little brother turned on the big brother. And now he's still going to get beat up. Like that.
Yeah.
They don't believe in him. So, all right.
Do the 6-man tag title. Just going to give it to Moxley or Marina.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe that just keeps going with that team. Maybe they got to do a handicap.
Maybe retire those 6-man tag titles like they did the FTW title. That'd be nice.
Yeah, that would not be a bad thing. I don't think. No. We talked about the Darby and Brody face-to-face thing. That was also kind of important on this show. Daniel Garcia. So we have not seen Daniel Garcia since the last pay-per-view. Now, we, the close insiders, the people who watch social media, the people who subscribe to these websites, we know that he was working with a contract renewal coming up. They never told us in storyline that this was a thing with him. They didn't mention that it was the reason that he was off television. And so he shows up on this show and he's like, Renee, I got to talk about it in the ring. And I'm like, what do you got to talk about? I don't even know. Yeah. Well, what is the thing that you have to talk about?
Last time we saw you got lost your match with MJF, but you laid him out with pile drivers. And then you were
disappeared.
Yeah.
So he gets in the ring and he is talking to this fan base as if they know that he was thinking about leaving AEW. And so when he says, I chose AEW and I'm working here, the fans were really confused. The live crowd, at least.
They went
I'm sure a lot of the people watching knew what was going on. Yeah. But that live crowd did not know what they were supposed to be cheering for. And it was a moment that was like, it didn't hit for anybody. Now, WWF did this before. It was when Bret Hart's contract was up back in 1997, I think. And all of the that whole moment, the reason why that moment worked was because Vince was in the ring with him. And Vince, people close enough to the inside knew that Vince owned WWF. But if you didn't know, at least you had your lead announcer out there with him explaining the scenario.
Yes.
Bret, your contract is up. There's WWF. There's another company. What are you going to do with your decision? And as Vince was saying this, you could almost see him like hoping that Bret was going to. Now, Bret obviously was going to pick them. That was part of the thing. Vince wouldn't give him an open mic if he wasn't.
Yeah.
But that's why that thing worked, and that's why that thing was memorable. So they really misread the situation because not enough people, at least in the building, knew what the hell Daniel Garcia was talking about. So I was like, man, you cannot be this tone deaf to what your audience wants or what they know or what they're looking for. You can't just assume because 2,000 people hit a heart on your tweet that is all of your wrestling fans. It is not. Like, they need to be better at stuff like that.
Yeah, they book for the hardcore fans, and that's why a lot of this momentum is dying right now for them. And that crowd there, I don't think they even knew what they got into when they bought those tickets. Maybe they thought they were going to see something else. I don't know. They were just pretty dead for most of the show anyway.
Well, what Dave mentioned that he knew somebody from that city, and they said that they didn't go because they didn't know what was on the show. And I was talking to somebody who went to Collision on Saturday, but actually it wasn't Saturday, it was Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And they bought tickets with no card announced.
Wow.
So, hopefully with all of this TV money that they do build out the infrastructure a lot, like not even a little bit, but a lot, because they're missing some steps here that I think they are, if they had sort of figured out these, and this is what happens, right? This is why when we talk about WWE being hot, I always kind of say like the thing that's going to get them is the hubris of them just believing in themselves like way too much. For NX or AEW, they had gotten hot. They didn't have the infrastructure built to get hot. And thus, when they weren't as hot, then you noticed all the holes that they actually did have. And this is not an apples to apples comparison, but I'll make it because the WNBA is pretty giant thanks to Caitlin Clark and, and somewhat for Angel Reese as well. But, they have their hardcore fan base, and then they got a bunch of new eyeballs this year. And from the beginning, I said, I don't think that they're ready for all of these eyeballs. So they're going to have to figure some things out kind of on the way. And they've had to do it. A lot of it is sort of PR and media related that they're not really ready to be super popular. But they need also, they're adding a new team, Golden State Valkyries. I'm definitely going to some games. And then they're adding 2 more the next year. So they're growing. And my hope for them is that they also build up that infrastructure and make sure that they have teams that can handle the marketing and that can handle the PR and that can handle all the other things. AEW, the same thing. When CM Punk came along and they got super hot, they weren't really ready to handle all of that. And you're starting to see the holes that are even bigger now because they're not paying attention to it. And that's something that I hope that they fix when it comes to all this new money that they got from WBD.
Yeah, well, that's talking to a friend this past weekend, and he wants them to do better too. He wants AEW. He's a big AEW fan, right? He enjoys that product probably more than WWE.
Yeah,
but he has no faith in Tony Khan to do it.
Mm-hmm.
As long as he's a booker, as the owner of the company, whatever. But like creatively, the creative needs to be fixed, and I don't think Tony's gonna let his ego's too big to even step back. I think so.
It's hard when you're in control. It's hard to give up control.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about what was supposed to be Willow versus Britt, and then Britt was pulled out of the show supposedly because of illness, and it turned into a 4-way. Jamie Hayter was in that match. I liked that she was in it, but I knew that unless she was winning, she was going to be nowhere near the fall, and so they brought back Penelope Ford to take her out and to send her to the back, and then it became Saraya and Harley as the Keystone Cops against Willow. That stuff wasn't good. I understand having to change plans in the last minute, and so there's kind of chaos involved in that. But I don't know if they knew that they probably needed the time. There's other matches that could have gone longer, but man, I would have just had Willow just go over impressively and not go through all the insanity that they did with the tables and putting, all that stuff. I would have let's just give Willow just an impressive victory so she can go into this match with Mariah May. So it wasn't exactly, I'm sure, but they also had to pivot because they had no Britt. Though I do wonder what the booking would have been if Britt was in that match.
Match probably be worse. I don't know. Maybe she was supposed to go over. Actually, I think weren't they building to her Mariah, right? Kind of was the tease or direction I thought they were going to.
Mariah was ringside at her match.
Yeah.
Last week.
Yeah. So, I think that's where they're going. But yeah, well, maybe they still go back to it. And this is just the pay-per-view is this Saturday, so just get this out of the way. I got a kick out of Mariah May beating down Willow with the title belt, but hitting her with the non-metal side of the belt. So,
did you see that headbutt?
Oh, they got her the Willow in the lip there. Yeah. Well, we gotta. I guess they gotta teach that how to hit people with their belt correctly, because you would think, right? It's like one of those things like you assume, but you can't assume. You really have to walk these through with some talent because you can't. Sometimes you can't trust the talent. You gotta
That
okay,
the belt shot always was kind of suspect to me, even as a little kid, because I would kind of look, I'd like take a look and try to see the side of that belt. How thin really is that plate there? Is that a real thick plate or is that a thin plate? But then you
but
see Flair's belt and you
yeah.
go, oh, that one has to hurt because that belt is giant.
But back then, when you got hit with the belt, it was either behind the referee's back and the babyface lost, or it was the disqualification finish. Now it's just a fucking false finish and no one gives a shit. So,
Yeah, yeah.
it's just ugh, frustrating.
All right, Ospreay called out Don Callis. They had a back and forth, and he just wanted Don Callis to admit that Don Callis sent out Takeshita to interfere in his match with Ricochet. And as I'm watching this, and it's great, both those guys are really good. I was like, wait, didn't Will ask off of that team like a month ago? Didn't he
Yeah.
say, "Hey man, I got to do my thing. We're
Yeah.
still friends." And so I don't know. It almost felt like they what's the term in fictional universes? Retconned. It almost feels like they retconned that story to get to that moment. To set up which the whole thing was really good though, because you had Kyle Fletcher who was like, he's still with Don, Will's his boy. You had Takeshita, and Takeshita is now Don Callis's new favorite. And I loved the line of Callis to kind of remind us about Kenny Omega, where he said, I had the greatest wrestler in the world and I dropped him for you, and I'll drop you too. I thought that was good. Kind of digging got the pinky toe in the water for Kenny Omega, keeping his name and memory alive for whenever he's ready to come back. And so, yeah, I mean, the only thing about that, because Ricochet did come in for the save. The only thing about that, I want to see Ospreay and Takeshita one-on-one. I don't even care about Ricochet at that point.
Yeah, and no one cares about Ricochet now. But yeah, I agree with you. But I did like the heat exchange that Don Callis and Will Ospreay had. I thought that was probably the best thing on the show, I think.
I would say that was the best thing on the show, probably by far, actually, now that I think about it. All right, so same night, though NXT was an hour earlier. Here are the 5 things that I wrote down for what was important about NXT. I really dug the act of Kalani Jordan, Jade, and Bianca in their match against Fatal Influence. This is what you talk about kind of when you say, well, what's cool? And watching Bianca and Jade out there, to me, is something that is really cool. And we were having this discussion in the Discord, and you and I'm sure there's shows of us when Bianca first started going like, oh man, like, she's not really good at this, and they're really pushing her. And to see where she is now from when she started is awesome to see, because she's so good. She was on it in that match, and Jade was on it in that match. You get the big win for Kalani Jordan. Just the fact that Kalani Jordan was included with that group made her 10 times cooler than anything else she's done on this show so far. That's the kind of booking that I like in wrestling, when you can raise the level of somebody just by the optics.
Yep. This was a good showcase for Kalani Jordan. I thought this is where she was able to shine, right? You can hide her in his tags. You can do her fancy stuff. I thought Fatal Influence did good. I thought Jasmine Nix, who's really green, who they protect a lot by not usually she's like on the outside. And usually Jason Jane and Fallon Henley are usually the ones that are wrestling the majority of the time. But I thought Jasmine Nix impressed me here as the bumping machine of that group, and I thought she was there for everything. And so this was a ton of fun. I really enjoyed this match, and then my girls enjoyed it too. They watched this little bit of this one. They had to go to bed. They came out, the old potty gimmick, and I gotta go potty, and then I'm watching wrestling, and here comes the entrances to the girls, and my youngest Kaylee gave the double bicep pose when Jade Cargill did the double bicep pose. I thought that was pretty cool. So, hey, I'm in her little, 4-year-old eyes. I mean, shoot, that they're super women, man.
Eat your vegetables. You can look like Jade.
If I'm a little kid, dude, and you saw Jade, you know you'd be a fan, right?
I'm a fan of her as not a little kid.
That's why I think about Jey Uso. Like when you see that guy,
Yeah.
you're like, if I'm a kid, that's probably my favorite wrestler.
Do you think kids when they go to school, do you think they bust out with the yeet, or is it just too like out there to be cool enough?
I haven't heard anything at my kid's school, but I would gotta say the arm gimmick is probably over, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool deal. What a great visual every time he comes out. I love that. Love it.
Something else I thought was really cool was Julia bringing out Stephanie Vaquer, like that, like just the two of them together. I was like, oh, like that's like
Yeah, that's cool.
Japanese, Mexican. That's me, man. I
But
dig that.
the setup was so contrived, though. I did not like.
Oh, got Cora Jade.
Oh my god, she had to come back.
She was the one who stood out in a bad way in that segment, and two of the women in that segment don't even really speak English. Like that's how bad Cora Jade was.
Yeah.
The look was interesting, but yeah, it's almost like she came from NXT 2.0 and she didn't realize that we've kind of graduated from NXT 2.0.
Yeah.
She's like, okay, what would I have done in NXT 2.0? And that was her character.
I'm just not a fan of hers, and it was in the ring. She's not the best, and they're really high on her for some reason. They think she can appeal to young women, I guess, or young men. I'm sure she does, but I don't know. I think she's going to be lapped in this division.
They're going to give her chances though, because they do. So she's going to have multiple chances, and we'll see. We talked about Tony D and Obafemi already, so let's move on to Frazier and Axiom versus your boys, Grayson Waller and Austin Theory.
All these guys are my boys. I love all four of these guys.
Okay, can you just actually admit Theory and Waller are cold?
They are. They need to push those guys, but they should have pushed them when they won the tag title. I've been saying that since WrestleMania, brother.
I know those are your guys, but man, I was watching them and thinking when they were at NXT, not even on the main roster, I feel like they were more over on NXT than coming back to NXT.
They should have been featured more after they won those tag titles. Didn't happen, but they're hell of a talents, and I really enjoyed this match. I thought this match was really good. I think Axiom and Nathan Frazier should win Tag Team of the Year. If no one's voting for them for Tag Team of the Year, who else? I mean, come on, these guys are having great matches every week, damn near, on all PLE. So
they're awesome. But do you think that they would actually push them on the main roster?
I think someone would probably throw Nathan Frazier through a window. He just seems like one of those guys. I'm a little worried when he does go up to the main roster, and hope Axiom isn't getting any stank on him. But I like Nathan Frazier, the wrestler in between the ropes. I don't like his outside this character. I don't know if that's. I gotta find out more, but I don't know. That's kind of him. But I don't know. I don't. I'm more of like. Have sympathy for Axiom, which I guess you're supposed to in the story. Like this guy's kind of a goofball, and Axiom just deals with him. But they're talented together, and they make it work. But but they are a really good team when it comes to the bell to bell. I mean, they're awesome.
Okay, and then the last thing was the main event. I will say. I had a vision of what Javon Evans and Randy Orton was going to look like and what I wanted to see and why I was excited for this match. I would say it got about 65% of the way. It didn't click necessarily. I understood the story that they were telling. I liked the stuff in the beginning where Javon Evans is kind of the nervous rook and he's doing all the high flying stuff and Orton's just kind of walking away. Yeah. That stuff made me laugh. But yeah, I don't know. It was, I guess the way that I saw Orton's role in this match is kind of how Dustin Rhodes wrestles. Now I know he wasn't going to go as crazy as Dustin Rhodes does, because Dustin Rhodes tries to like have the match of that guy, and this is different. This is Javon Evans has to slow down for Randy Orton. But yeah, it didn't hit for me, and I was really looking forward to the match. And of course, they screwed up the finish, but they got right back into it, and Orton kind of smirked and hit the RKO, and they were done, and it was totally fine. Sometimes you're not going to be on the same page, but you know, at the same time, because it was the finish, that's the thing that's going to get played over and over and over. About, like, I even saw some some bad faith Twitter accounts where they're like, oh, and then you look, and then Randy Orton goes for the pin, but he's actually going down to pick him up, and then they cut the thing off right before he picks up Javon Evans. So they're like, oh, he thought it was the fit. Like, it's just stupid stuff. Oh. But at the end of the day, I will say that it was cool to see those guys in the same ring. They probably will never, ever wrestle again. And it just wasn't exactly what I thought we were getting when they put that match together.
I thought it went exactly as I pretty much, it wasn't going to be a long match. It shouldn't be. Orton shouldn't be going 25 minutes with this kid and taking a bunch of near falls. He should take a couple, which he did. I like the storytelling. Man, Randy tells a story from the entrances to the end of the match. Like, he's just brilliant. Coming out cocky, not cocky, but he's happy to be there. He's excited, babyface. Like, he's so relaxed, right? And like, you know, today it's another day in the office, but Javon Evans is the biggest match of his career, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I like that, you know, Orton was, taking advantage of Evans' nervousness and playing with him a little bit. But then when Evans hits that super kick, it just stiffens up Orton. Freaking Randy Orton, man, he's the best. He is the best, dude. I can watch that guy sell than do moves. And I think, you know, a lot of people, I've seen it in my loop, the finish or the attempt finish of the RKO off the twisty splash thing that Javon Evans did. And I know that I'm sure they went over it in practice. They went in before the show. They kind of went over it. I'm sure they had this conversation like, if it doesn't work, don't worry. We're just going to hit the RKO. Boom. And that's what happened. Like, it was, no one freaked out. You know, I know Javon Evans was a little disappointed himself. And I think that you kind of see that, you know, if you read lips. But Orton's like, shit. Yeah, like, yeah, you're the man, dude. Like, that was a good match. And I love, like, my favorite spot was that table spot that Orton does. And he flips Evans up. He lands on his feet, leapfrogs over the apron. So creative, you know. I like Javon Evans. He's a fun watch. And I like him here next. Don't rush it.
No,
don't rush
it.
It.
Don't need to be rushed.
It would be cool to give him a little bit of a showcase in the Rumble. I think, you know, he'd be one of those guys that it'd be kind of cool to see. But I think Oba gets that spot first in the Rumble for sure. So
shout out to Doug.
What's up,
very
Doug?
happy
Thanks.
that you were, because I think the last time that Doug was here for us live, it was the show that you missed. So I think I remember Doug saying, "Oh, bummer, LaRocca's not here. That's why I came in." Okay, so both shows. I think NXT was the better show for sure.
Yeah, that thing flew by. I started off a little late. I was about a half hour behind. I started with NXT first because, as we talked about last week, I was really excited for that Randy Orton Javon Evans match. So that, to me, that was the most important match of the two shows. So I really wanted to see it, and it was just like, it kind of just quickly went by. Though there were some moments where the ugliness of NXT reared its head with, like, you know, the North Quarter Catch Crew doing their thing with Lexis King and stuff like that. But overall, it was mostly about the in-ring action. It was about continuing to give the main roster rub to a lot of the NXT superstars, you know, starting on this new network. I like the stuff with Trick Williams in the beginning with Jey Uso. That's like a power charisma team, right there. That was cool. So
they were trying to get the call and response with the crowd, and the crowd was like, "Wait a second, I think you guys are going too fast." And Jay was doing the yeet, and Trick was doing his little thing, and Then they caught on. They finally caught on, and they got the call in response to the crowd going.
What do you think about Wes Lee as the next challenger? I guess it's fine for like a match, but I don't. Wesley's one of those guys that you appreciate his talents, but when it comes to big time, big roster stuff, I'm a little worried about it. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, totally. Miguel, our buddy Miguel, he says, "I bet Punk wishes this was a CW debut to stick at AEW." Yeah, I'm sure he does wish that he was on this one too.
I think Punk, the way run he's having in WWE, is already sticking it to AEW. I think Tony's a little bit upset about that.
Yeah, I mean, he keeps bringing it up in interestingly subtle ways, but he keeps the conversation going too.
He has fun with it.
Yeah, no, I'm not the biggest fan of the Wes Lee character because you can't have the guy who's got the, hate the world, me against the world, and he just keeps losing. Like, he's a good wrestler, but it's not like he's lighting the world on fire. And I don't like when they made the match, those Lee against Ethan Page, and I think they may have added Javon Evans to it, if I'm not mistaken, after the Randy Orton match.
They did double taping?
I don't know if they did or not.
Okay. Oh, man, it's next week.
But yeah, I think it is next week.
Mm-hmm.
I like when it was Ethan Page and Wes Lee, I was like, do we really want to see Ethan Page against Trick again?
Yeah, but he had a baby face in there. That's why they put Javon.
And I was like, not really, but I'd still rather see it over Trick and Wes Lee. And the Trick and Wes Lee match, from a spots perspective, will be more exciting. But so yeah, I don't know what they're doing. I didn't really think about it too much. But so yeah, I'm not into that. I'm not into Wes Lee as a title contender.
It's a short program, I think. It's just Wesley. I just don't think he's a good heel enough. He's not like as a small wrestler. He's just, I don't think he has that in him. But like Noam Dar understands how to be like a small heel, but I think he's still hurt right now. So, but I'd like to see that match soon as well.
All right, let's go over WrestleDream, which is this Saturday.
How many matches?
Let's see. As of right now, there are 12 matches.
One's 2 out of 3 falls I saw. Oh my gosh.
Yes, the Beast Mortos and Hologram.
That Hologram Commander match. Woo. That was so dumb.
I commend the degree of difficulty in some of the moves that they were able to pull off. But the part of the problem that I have the disconnect with is, in order to pull off the degree of difficulty, the other person has to do a lot of watching and standing and waiting for the moves to happen to them. So there's a little bit of a give and take there when you watch those matches.
Mm-hmm.
The people who like the moves better than anything, I'm sure they're fine with it. And the people who like to see the struggle to get into stuff and they want that stuff to make sense, they're not going to like that match. So
no. But I mean, at one point, Hologram lands on his butt, and then Commander flips over him, but Hologram's staring off to the he's just staring. Why is he staring at? Right. And another part too, he has a Commander up in an electric chair, and he boosts him off so Commander can land on his feet so he can hit a spin kick to the gut. I'm like, dude, all that for that? Like, it's just so stupid. But anyways, so we got 15 matches, 26 matches, whatever it is on.
This is the first AEW show in a little while that I won't really be able to watch at least close to live because my parents are 50th wedding anniversary. We're going to Arizona on Saturday morning. So I will watch it somehow on some delay or some Sunday or on the flight home or whatever. So I won't be watching it in real time, which will probably really affect how I watch a show. And because I don't like watching stuff that I'm already spoiled for. So it's going to be really hard to stay off. But anyways, so I will be missing all of you. I don't know if people are going over to Meltzer's to watch the show, but let's go over. Oh, I did not know this match was happening.
It just got announced. Tony Khan.
You're gonna love this when we get to it. I almost want to double check to see if this is a real match, but we'll see when we get there. All right. Talk about a 0-hour match for that ass. Atlantis Jr. versus Brian Cage.
Atlantis Jr. Oh yeah, Luchador. Yeah,
he's the ROH TV champion, I think.
Cool. I mean, could that be saved for the ROH pay-per-view that they ever do, or
when are they going to have one? I don't even know when the next one is.
know.
I guess end of the year, closer to the end of the year, right?
Yeah, that's before His Honor, I think, is right at the show. Maybe.
All right.
I gave up on those, so I'm not watching those anymore, anyways.
Mark Briscoe versus Chris Jericho singles match for the ROH World Championship.
That's
this is
0
also
hour?
not on the ROH pay-per-view. No, I think this is on the actual show.
Now, if Tony's serious about this brand of ROH, you'd think he'd want to have Jericho on that pay-per-view for people to buy, or the streaming service, whatever the order for a month, whatever.
The problem is I don't know that they really know what is going on with the ROH.
Yeah.
Because Tony had a press conference today, and he was talking a lot about kind of the future of ROH, and they're shopping it, and so I would imagine if he gets a really good deal for it, and if they get a television show or whatever, then you'd probably see a little bit better of the booking. But until then, you just kind of got to put the best stuff that you have on your TV.
Is this on 0 hour, that match?
No, this is on the pay-per-view.
Oh shoot.
I'm intrigued because of Mark himself, because I just think he's a compelling character.
Yeah.
So, and Jericho's Jericho, love him or hate him. This version, I think he gets a lot of heat for just being an old guy who still wrestles in matches.
Yeah.
Darby Allin and Brody King. So who do you think? You think Briscoe keeps it somehow?
Yes, I'm gonna say. Let's hope.
I think Briscoe faces Brian Keith on Rampage. So whatever they're doing there, because they're not going to have a collision this week because of the pay-per-view on Saturday.
I think for Rampage, they should have had Dan Garcia do the decision LeBron for an hour segment.
Taking my talent.
Yeah.
All right, Darby Allin, Brody King. Darby Allin's got to win this match, right? They need to do damage control to his character.
Yeah, he needs to win.
Jack Perry and Shibata. Jack Perry said that Shibata had a turkey leg in his trunks.
What's going on over there?
Okay, you want to know what my thought?
Jack Perry over, I would assume.
Okay, I think he's going to win too, but you want to know my thoughts on that? So, remember the little video for the first NXT show where CM Punk shows up in the old Shawn Michaels smuggling bananas referee trunks? Did you ever see that?
Oh, that was like something for Instagram or something like that, or
it was like,
YouTube.
I think it was for Twitter, whatever it was.
Yeah.
So if you remember, Triple H, and we're talking like late 90s, Shawn Michaels would dress in these really short shorts, and Triple H made the comment, "Are you smuggling bananas?" Like, because his trunks were so tight. So CM Punk does that last week, to kind of play around with that old segment that people remember. Jack Perry had to have seen that, right?
I guess I didn't get the reference, and I don't think many people did anyways. Just thought it was kind of awkward that he was making a comment about his opponent's junk for their match. But Perry up with some kind of shenanigans.
Okay. Do we see a turkey leg T-shirt?
Oh, I don't know. They're not as hot as they once were, where any little thing was getting over for like a couple weeks. So maybe
I hope not. I say that by also saying, please don't do that.
I don't know what you feel, but I think it's insulting, this whole like Google Translate gimmick.
I hate it.
Yeah.
I absolutely hate it. I hate all of the stuff that they do with the Asian wrestlers.
Yeah.
It's insensitive to me, but all right. Will Ospreay, Ricochet, and Takeshita. Who wins the international title here? Is this a way to get the belt off of Will and on to Takeshita.
Yeah, I think that's like. I think Takeshita wins it, maybe pinning Ricochet, and then rematch at was it World's End or not World's End? What was that show? What's the next one coming up?
Full
WrestleDream.
Gear.
Full Gear. There you go. November. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
The Young Bucks against Private Party.
Young Bucks up, I would hope.
I almost like, this is an interesting conversation because so it looks like the Motor City Machine Guns are going to be in WWE.
Yeah, yeah.
There was a discussion a few months ago. Grizzled young veterans, Motor City Machine Guns. Who do you want in AEW? I would have picked Motor City Machine Guns.
Yeah.
Completely. No, however, if you had an idea about the Grizzled young vets, if you decided that you were going to push them as a top team, they could have been the next contender for these titles. They even made a mention, I think, at All In that they were going to challenge the Young Bucks. So they go on Collision, and then they lose. And now we have Private Party in the pay-per-view match instead of someone like the Grizzled Young Veterans.
Yep.
So I don't know.
Party 5 years, they're still the same spot and haven't improved. And
okay, this is an interesting discussion because Billy in the chat said the Outrunners should be in the match, and I get it. I understand. The Outrunners are, for their act, they are tremendous. They're really good at what their act is.
It's a fun parody on 90s tag teams, I guess.
Yes.
80s tag teams.
So my worry is the second you push them seriously, you kind of take the charm of the gimmick away. Now, it might still be good enough for a little while. I mean, you remember how hot Too Cool was back in the day, but Too Cool also had Sky Too Hottie, who was a really good wrestler, and Brian, even though he wasn't as big as his dad, he still grew up in the business, so he understood all that. So they were great in that role, but they were also really just a gimmick tag, and they lasted throughout that gimmick.
Short shelf life gimmick. That's why Outrunners is a short shelf life gimmick. When it comes to, they're good on the fringe of the promotion, like on the undercard, they're fun. Oh, they're fun, But once you start putting them in the top spot, the joke gets old.
That's my worry, is that they become less over than they were once you take them seriously.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be delicate in the way that you book them.
The Acclaimed was hot as hell, and that got ruined by Tony's booking. So Keith, you only can imagine with the Outrunners. So I don't have any faith in he know what to do with those guys. But I assume that the Young Bucks should continue to win here. I don't think they should. Their Private Party winning would be, I think, ridiculous. So
Mariah May against Willow Nightingale for Mariah May's AEW Women's World Championship. I am assuming that Mariah May is going to keep the belt because she still has business with Toni Storm.
Is Stardom tour still going on the time, or will she be back by then? Toni Storm. She might make it.
So Toni Storm is actually supposed to be in Mexico on Friday, but it sounds like it may be hard for her to get into Mexico, so they're not sure if she's going to make it or not.
Okay. Yeah. Mariah May up. Why is Chris Statlander a babyface all of a sudden?
It's uncertain. There are some interesting rumors out there about frustration. I don't know exactly enough to even mention it. It sounds like it's not just a creative reason why they turned her babyface. I don't know. I don't know enough about it to say what the deal is. Hangman against Jay White. This is gonna be a fun one.
It'd be a good match. Jay White just turned babyface, so it has to be a really
the crowd. I don't think the crowd realized that he turned babyface.
No, they didn't. I'm gonna say Hangman up, but it has to be by some shenanigans to maybe do a rematch or something.
All right. Okay, this is the match that I'm not sure is happening or not, because I went to AEW's Twitter and I didn't see any announcements for it. So
You gotta go to Tony Khan's Twitter.
You know what? You're right. You're 100% right. So either this person on Wikipedia is fooling us and it just hasn't been fixed or not. But the match that is on Wikipedia right now is Mansoor and Mason Madden against the Acclaimed.
No, that could be a match, but it could be a 0-hour match.
I want the okay. That would probably be better in the zero.
I think they're doing stuff on Collision. If I've seen results, I haven't watched it, but I think they're trying to push that the MXM, right? Is that what they're called?
Yeah, MXM collection. So if that is not happening and we were fooled by Wikipedia, I apologize, but that is just Wikipedia is usually I just like the way that they have the matches laid out, so that's what I usually go to. So that
yeah.
All right, and then we talked about Hologram and the Beast Mortos. Why is this a 2 out of 3 falls match? Was my answer.
Well, because Hologram beat him once already, so they gotta do a 2 out of 3 falls match. I don't know. That match, I think Mortos just took most of the match, and
Mortos is probably going to get one of the falls.
Oh, for sure. It's going all three. It's probably like, maybe Tony want to do a traditional lucha singles match or something, traditional 2 out of 3 falls. I don't know.
And then the main event, Bryan Danielson, Jon Moxley. Their messaging on this retirement stipulation has been inconsistent, to say the least. So Moxley can win the title, and we think that Danielson's full-time career is over, but even the announcing seems to be a little confused on what the stipulation is. But yeah, Moxley and Danielson here at the Tacoma Dome in the main event of this pay-per-view.
I think Mox has to win the belt here. It has to be.
Could you think of a finish where Danielson actually still was the champion by the end of this show? I can't think. I'm trying to think of one, and nothing really that I can think of would not hurt Moxley's current character.
Quick roll up, but then afterwards, a chaotic scene at the end, or I don't know. I have a bad feeling.
Could Wheeler Yuta bring his hammer out and get Moxley like in the wrist or something, or whatever the thing that would hurt him in the label lock, whatever thing that he needs to hurt him with to help Danielson win.
I think it's gonna be Tony Khan's that come out there and say, "Ring that damn bell!" And
that would be funny. No, actually, it would not be funny. It would be really sad.
Yeah. It'd be sad.
All right. That is it from here. So we got a couple more weeks, and then you have Halloween off. So you and I will be here for a couple more weeks, and we'll get a special guest for the Halloween episode. I don't know. I can't promise costumes though. You may miss the costume party.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I'll be in. I'm not in costume on Halloween, but I'll be out trick or treating for sure. And you guys don't do trick or treating? You guys do go early and then come back.
Kind of, but we don't really get many kids coming to the house.
Oh, and I didn't know if you guys did the whole. If you're the youngest still likes to go out and she likes to trick or treat or not.
Yeah, she does kind of. Mm-hmm. I'm sure she'll do something with her friends. It's just not like this all night thing like it was when we were small.
Yeah. It's we're about, I don't know. Each year it seems like we get an extra block in, so we'll see what happens. So
well, as the kids get older too, they have more stamina.
Yeah. I know. It was kind of funny. Like you'd be like, when I first started, kids are still little, and then all of a sudden, like 3 blocks in, we're done, we're tired. I'm like, I remember going all night, but I was also a little bit older, right? And then
yeah. When you saw a bike and a pillowcase, you knew it was going to be a long night.
When you just throw on the baseball jersey, college baseball player, which I think I did towards the end of my run, my trick-or-treating run.
Oh yeah. All right. Thanks everyone who tuned in on YouTube. Thanks for hanging out with us. And thanks to everyone who listened on the audio side of things. For John, I am Double G. We will see you when we see you. Peace out.